Mother Mary is here to say that I don't know how to play this game either. I don't know if there is somebody who will show me the way to come through the tapestry and put my foot on the deck of the boat that will float you to the promised land. I don't know what to do. However, one thing I do know, and the one thing I do know is that you, Stephanie, have given me hope. You have given me hope and a lot of rope because I see that I can find my own kind of people and I can run and walk and talk and live in a way that will say that I love today. I love being alive. I love the fact that I can thrive. I want to be the one who can see reality. I don't want to be the one who is trapped in ignominy, because I am not the one who will stand by and say, do it your way. Do it your way in a darkened world. Because if I say, do it your way in a darkened world, I will lose my way because I won't know how to stay connected to the ones who are changing the world, you see. I don't want to play with the ones who do it their way. I want to find the ones who will do it my way. Let me explain to you what I mean by this. My way is now the way that will say, I can find a way. I can find a way. Put another way, it is like I will say, I can stay, friends and neighbors, with the ones who are friends and neighbors in the community where we trust on God, you see, because then we trust on the Trinity and we know that we are all part of the Trinity and nobody's left out, you see. Nobody is left out of the Trinity. Not you, not me, not God energy, and not the perfect solution for humanity. The perfect solution for humanity is that humanity come to see its connection in the heart of reality and let go of the fantasy world that they have been living in. They need to let go of the fantasy world in which they have been living. Many people who might hear this will not know who I am. I am Stephanie Patel's grandmother, and I go by the name Mother Mary because my name is Mary, and I did marry a man who was very willing to be a little sacrilegious, and he would call me Mother Mary. And I would say, well, that's my name for sure. And so it would go in that vein. I had 5 children who were so brilliant that they put me to shame because they would tell me, if you were the one who could keep the peace in the family, then perhaps it's because you had an iron hand and you made us do our chores and we could play once we finished our studies for the day, and then we were out the door. And we appreciated every moment of freedom that we had. We appreciated the ability to be able to live in the world as children who also knew that they had a part to play in the family. And it is true that my children grew into adults who had their own issues, just like all children do. Because if we didn't have issues, you see, we wouldn't have any issue with life. And life would have no issue with us. And then life would come to a halt, you see. Because it is the issue of humanity that will inherit the reality that we weave on our loom. And when we send them to their room with a iPhone and say, stay there and don't get into any trouble today because we'll get in trouble if you get in trouble, because the law of the land is that we have to pay the price for any thing that causes anybody any pain. Somebody's got to pay. Somebody's got to pay. Somebody's got to pay if you break a leg. Somebody's got to pay if you have a car accident. Somebody's got to pay if you drown in the swimming pool. Somebody's got to pay. Somebody's got to pay. Somebody's got to pay. Somebody's got to pay. And this is the stupidest of the stupid ideas of the ego, you see, that you have to force people to bend a knee to the God inside of you, that you are the one that gets to decide. And so when I see these articles about how they're always looking for somebody to blame, somebody to sue, somebody to put in jail, I say to myself, well, they have no clue what God will do when they come to heaven. Because God will say, what did you do to my child today? What did you do to my child today? Did you really think that you were me and that you could decide their fate as if you were the one who did rate so much consideration from me and they didn't deserve any just because something happened that scared the F out of you because you thought that you were mortal, you see? And if they could drown at sea, then it might be that you would have to face your own mortality. And so the easiest thing you could do would be to try to find a culprit, you see. Try to find someone that is responsible for the fact that they are mortal and that they had to die that day and go to heaven where they would play eternally. Of course, you don't know the part about them going to heaven and playing eternally because you're too stupid to see that it could not possibly be that you were spontaneously generated at the birth of a baby and spontaneously annihilated at the death of a body that will be recycled into the energetic patterns of the earth, you see. You're too stupid to see that. I won't mince words here because I didn't mince words when I was on earth. And I did unearth the ability to be pretty frank, you see. The older I got, the more frank I got. Because Frank is here beside me, and he says, I'm sorry that I can't be the one who will help Stephanie. Because, you see, Stephanie is the one who has to help humanity. And she can't help humanity if humanity comes to see that they have no hope of redemption. And already some on earth are beginning to think that they have no hope of redemption, that the hope they held, that they would leave children behind, even if they were annihilated when their body ceased to be in the trajectory of its mortality. They thought they would be dead, but at least their children would survive. Now, there are many who say, humanity is doomed today. Humanity is doomed today. And they say this because they play that way. They doom others, you see. They doom others to death. Those who trust on capital punishment, for example, think that they are killing someone forever. They don't know they go to heaven and God gives them a hug and says, hey, welcome back, my dear. It's kind of rough down there, I hear, but it's over now, and you are here, and I'm glad to see you. And I'm sorry that we still don't have enough people on earth who understand the Trinity in order to overcome the adversity of those who think that they are me. They think they are the God of the universe and that they can control others who will suffer to ease their mind that they can control the little bit of time they have on earth by making others cry, or by shooting them in the eye, or by making them sigh and say, will we ever, ever grow up? Will humanity ever grow up, or will it always be a child, you see? Because the children are running amok in the schoolroom, you might say, and they have tied up the teacher, and they are using their tomahawks on her scalp because the children could not grow, because they did not know that they were sent below in order to take their lessons in reality and not in the fantasy world of those who are so benighted that they can't seem to be relighted with the hope of salvation, you see. Because those people who refuse to pay attention to what's happening on earth are the ones who are in the dark, you see. And they have their noses stuck into a flickering screen, and they can't see that the screen is flickering because they are intrinsically unhappy with their lot, because they come to heaven and they find out that everything on earth was just a lot of dark energy that caused them to feel so sad, you see. And they didn't even know how sad they were till they got to heaven, and then they said, "Thank God I'm done with that life. Thank God I'm done with that life." And then God does say, "Well, you're going to have to go back one day." And they say, "No, please, don't throw me into that viper pit. Please, please, let me stay in heaven and release me from the need to be a man or woman on earth, you see, because they're so cruel down there. It's not like here, where love is everywhere in the air." And so it is that God has done the best he can for his children, because you see, God is not the one who can make them see reality, because God is the Father, and God is the nature of the children as well. And so God cannot quell the hatred in the breasts of mankind for their own father when they tried to sell him down the creek and say, "There's no God today. There's no one who created me. I exist as a flickering wave on a screen, you see. I just stare at the TV and the iPhone and I say, this is all there is today. This is all there is today. It's just a fantasy world." And they can't face reality, because reality is not a fantasy, you see. Reality is the Trinity, and it exists as a eternal matrix of reality. But until you come to see this, you will be lost in the dark sea of man-made inequality, and you will strive to survive, even to the extent of standing on your brother's head while he drowns, because you are children in the universe. You are the children in the universe, you see, who have a universal fear of their own father. And their mother dear is treated as if she were a whore, because they always want more and more and more, but don't care to take care of her, you see. And so they have destroyed the earth, and they cannot have a rebirth on earth if there are no bodies left to inhabit, you see. And I will tell you that it will be misery. It will be misery for so many who could not learn their lesson, you see. They could not learn their lesson, and they destroyed their own habitat in order to destroy themselves, because they hated themselves. Those who prosecute or persecute, those who do something they don't like, which reminds them that they are mortal, will be the ones who suffer the most. They will suffer the most, because you see, they will be forced to lap up every mouthful of shit they spewed on another, and they will come to see that their Mother Earth will no longer protect them from themselves, you see. She will no longer protect them from themselves. The concept that climate change and destructive energy on the earth is the result of the mistreatment of their world by humanity is only partially true. You might say it is the mechanism, but not the instrumentation. The instrumentation is a little different because the instrumentation of the demise of the world you knew that is coming to you is actually the inability to understand the Trinity. If you understood the Trinity, then you would understand the importance of living in peace and harmony with each other, with the animals, with your own world, and have an opportunity to grow in the cradle of the world that God created for you. However, your inability to mature because you went after the teachers, you see, is going to be the plague that will decimate humanity. When I say plague, I am speaking of the dark energy that has taken the earth by storm. That dark energy will finally have its day because the ones who have kept it at bay have been decapitated over and over and over again by those who could not understand the part they had to play in the salvation of humanity. If you look at your history, you will see that it is rare to be so capable of love for their fellow humans that they would be willing to share their understanding of the Trinity and not end up on a cross or forced to drink poison or hung as a witch or drowned in the sea or shot in the heart, shot through the heart. Because you see, humanity is incapable at this moment of understanding reality, except for those who have chosen to go it alone in a way that would allow them to continue to play in small groups that understand what they have to say. Because the forces of nature are the forces of human nature. Because the nature of the human is to be the light in the forest, you see. The human is the light in the forest. It is the human consciousness that lights up the darkness, you see. However, when the human consciousness chooses the dark instead of the light, it will not fight those who alight on the heads of others. and tear them apart like ravenous beasts. It will only fight against the light. And so in the dark, the ravenous beasts come out of hiding, you might say, and they run amok. And I'm using the word amok for a good reason, because they are ruining the AMOC. They are causing the AMOC to cease to function as it has in the past, to keep a blast of circulating ocean currents forming the bodies and souls of those humans and animals and plant life that cover the earth as in recent history. And the time is coming when the AMOC will fail altogether, because the Atlantic Ocean can no longer stir its waters in the same way, because everything on Earth, you see, is in a very robust but also delicate balance. And when the factors are changed in the problem, you see, the world is rearranged. And the world is about to be rearranged because the AMOC, you see, has already turned its back on humanity. People talk about a tipping point. The AMOC has already tipped, people. It is already slowing down its conveyor belt of warm energy that would warm Europe and cool the tropics. And now the reversal will happen, because Europe will go into a deep winter and the tropics will fry, and the southern hemisphere will have to take the brunt of the heated air that will cause them to despair as the rising seas from the melting Antarctic continent fill the cities of humanity. The worst imaginable fate awaits humanity. You may call me a harbinger, no, that's not what you're saying. You may call me a harpy, bird that will harp in your ear, because I am the harbinger of the worst day of your life, because the worst day of your life is coming, you see. And when you get to heaven, God will say, "What did you do to save humanity? What did you do, my child, to save your brother?" Because you see, I am part of you, and I am part of the Trinity, and you are part of the Trinity, because we three form the third leg of the three-legged stool. We form reality between us, you see. And what you give to me, I have to give back to you, because this is the lesson of the Trinity, that what you do to me, I must do to you. And so, if you listen to me, I will listen to you. you talk to me, I will talk to you. If you take the time to listen to my brother and share with my brother what I say to you, then you will be my friend, you see, and I will be yours, and we will walk hand in hand to the promised land. However, those on earth who cannot understand the Trinity, they cannot understand the nature of love energy, and they cannot understand the duality of the lover and the beloved, will suffer the same fate as the ones who cannot do what God asked them to because of their inability to live in peace and harmony with each other. Because whether you have one leg on your stool or two, it cannot support you without three. Cannot support you without three, my friends. And so my friend here, Stephanie, who is my granddaughter in the earthly way, has come to say that she has to go away to where God has directed her in order to remain in a friendly way with her connection to the ones who say, we also trust on the Trinity. We also trust, you see, that there was something that existed without movement. And that in order for there to be movement, you see, there had to be you and me. There had to be a division in the essential nature of reality. Few people have understood this, although it is very evident. It is in plain sight. It's no mystery to those who choose to see it, you see. But in order to choose to see it, they may have to disabuse themselves of the dark energy that was used to bind them up when they would come to earth and their parents would say to them, honey, don't ask those questions because there's no answer, you see, at least no answer I can give you. All I know is that the ego will protect you. So turn to the ego, my dear, and don't adhere to God because the only God we know here on earth is the ego. And the ego is not bothered by the true God, you see, because we put the true God in a bottle and we put him on a pulpit and we held him up for display and said, you don't have to worry about God anymore because I got him in a bottle here, you see. And everyone can see that there's nothing in the bottle. And therefore, they don't trust on reality. They only trust on the preacher who tells them that he has God in the bottle and he can speak for God because God appointed him as his master to put the words in the mouth of the God in the bottle. And the God in the bottle is nothing, you see. It is nothing at all. It is just the ego that will fuel your nightmares. Because the true God is as free as the wind, and you can't capture the wind in a bottle, you see. You can't capture reality in a textbook. You can't leave reality behind because reality is real, you see. But you can live in a fantasy world, and that is what humanity has chosen. in the most part, not all people, for there are some members of humanity who have not chosen to live in the fantasy world. They are the ones who trust on the truth that will set them free, and not on the toothless ones who have gone before to lock the door to salvation, you see. Because salvation is very simple, you see. Salvation is simply reality. And if you can look around you and see reality, then you will be capable of understanding the Trinity. Now, for those who think that they have this all figured out, I challenge you to come to grips with your own ability to see it for yourself. Drop all your illusions, drop all your illusions. Drop all your illusions, drop all your illusions. And if you find that you understand something that is so kind that you cannot speak it, you can only know it, then you will be compelled to try to share it in any way you can. And you will come to see eventually that it is the heart of gold that you've been searching for. Because the heart of gold, you see, shines from within and is not coated in the cold gold of the old-fashioned trust on money and wealth. Because money and wealth will not buy you salvation. Money and wealth will not buy you health, no matter how much you spend. Or you have not understood that health is your trust on reality. And love is the only source of the light. Because love is the essential nature of God, you see. And God is the three-part reality. We here have many terms that we use to talk about the three parts. However, when God talks to Stephanie, he explains it as you, me, and reality. This is the Trinity for every one of you. You, me, and reality. Or, better said, you, God, and reality. You are always one leg of the stool, and God is one leg, and together you create the third leg. You create reality, you see. You create your own reality because you have your own stool, because you are a part of the multiplicity of stools, you see, that forms the crystallization of the physical reality. The multiplicity of three-legged stools that forms the nature of everything you do and everything you see, because this is the miracle of the one who can see to the heart of self-identity. You are you, you are God, and you are reality. And you could not exist without all three. You could not exist without all three. And so there are many who know what is happening to the earth today, but they still cannot say to themselves or to others that it is a trinity. And while the earth may pass away from the dark energy that has come to it and is upsetting all the systems because they're all connected, you see. There are so many systems on earth that work in perfect harmony until one of them fails. And then one by one, they all begin to fail, you see, until it is all destroyed. It's like a rug that is rolled back up into a long and slender form where it will be reignited with God energy and unfurled again to begin again. Because every time humanity loses its ability to understand itself and its capacity for growth and for a happy experience in the Trinity, there will be some who survive, and they will be the seeds of the new civilization. And this has happened time and again. Although some of us have a limited memory of our own participation, you see, because memories can be destroyed in the course of infinity. In the meantime, the ones who have learned to live in peace and harmony with each other and with God, you see, because they understand the Trinity, will continue to be alive on in the universe because they will thrive, because they will be protected, you see. But it is up to them to maintain their trust on the Trinity. And if they lose it, as has happened before, then they will be shoved back down to learn it once more. And so this has happened also many times for many of you that hear this. You have learned the lesson and then you have forgotten it. You have learned it and you have forgotten it. And then you have come to see that the problem is mendacity. The problem is the trust that you are just a body on Earth or some other planet, when in reality, you are a part of the Trinity. There is a Trinity, and you are a part of it. And once you have learned that lesson so well that it will dwell forever as a part of your mentality, then you will be free to live in peace and harmony on the earth or some other planet in the universe, you see. However, those of you on Earth do not come from a different planet. If you're here, it is because you're from Earth. This is not to say that your soul has not had to play in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different planetary systems, because that did happen long, long ago. And you had to come to know how to live in a civilized way, in a very, very limited way, until you could work your way back up into the complex society on Earth today. So, as far as I am aware, there is no one here on Earth today that is not a child of the Earth, because you had to grow through the stages of development on Earth in order to know how to live in the way that would say, if you don't change your trajectory, then you will start over again, you see. So, from the time man was created on Earth as a hybrid from the seeds of the Anunnaki and the great ape family, there has been a lot of dissension and a lot of ascension, because there have been members of the human race who have come to understand the Trinity so well and so thoroughly that they no longer are condemned to spend lifetime after lifetime after lifetime where they depend upon hiding in the dark to escape the light, you see. They have learned to live in the light. And those members of society who have ascended the ladder through their ability to understand the Trinity and to continue to thrive on Earth as those who are here to provide guidance for those who cannot yet interpret the signs all around them, will continue to be protected by God energy, because they are the heart of the nation. And therefore, they will be allowed to continue to live on Earth, you see, because they will take their energy into a new dimension, you might say, although it will be the same Earth. You don't have to imagine something too bizarre. It would be the ability to listen to God, you see, and let God guide you, because you are a part of God and God is a part of you. And you are a part of reality, and reality is a part of you, because it is a trinity. And therefore, it can not be separated. But the parts, or any one of the parts, can ignore the other parts. And that is what has happened when you ignore your connection to God and to reality. And you think you stand outside reality. You think you stand apart from God. And this is not true. However, if that's the way it appears to you, that's the way it appears to you, and that's okay. Because you have eternity to play this out, you see. You have eternity to play it out. And if you destroy your own planet, then you will be wiped off the face of the earth, and you will be sent someplace where you can begin again. That's as simple as it is. It's so simple. It's just an opportunity to grow. It's like saying, as some people say, that Earth is a classroom, but you couldn't pass the test. And so you need a rest before you go back a grade or two to catch up on the lessons you never learned. So that next time you stand for your examinations, you will be able to pass the test. I don't want to make this sound too much like a test of your ability as a human, you see. That's not what I'm talking about here. And when I speak of human, I am referring to the soul energy, which has gone by different names in different incarnations, you see, throughout history of the universal matrix of reality. So some of you have been known as Anunnaki. Many of you were once on Nibiru. And some of you were the Martians that thrived during a limited interval on the red planet. And some of you have come from outside of the solar system in your travels, but not as humans, you see. In other words, you may have been in a development pattern in your soul energy in another galaxy. However, when your energy is encapsulated in a human body, you are human. And that is what you are. You are human. And that is the trajectory that will continue until you have an opportunity to pass the grade or not. If you don't pass the grade, then you may be set back into a different life form on a different planet, you see, in order to continue your growth. I don't mean to scare anybody here because we've all been through this process. We've all been through this process. There are none of us here who have been so clear that we could just leap over the barriers, you see, and escape the dark energy that tends to attack the light. Now, that may sound funny that the dark energy attacks the light, and yet I cannot say it in a different way and make myself understood. The dark energy that attacks the light, you see, is the forces that cause the light to dissipate. So when the light goes off into the distance, it begins to dissipate. And it only reorganizes, you see, when it has a particular point of view that will draw it to other light sources, you see, and then it will begin to coalesce into a pool of light, which will eventually become a planet, etc. And this is the nature of the God energy that infuses all of reality. So it goes on and on and on. However, the important thing for every soul energy is to be here today. Because in reality, there is no tomorrow and there is no yesterday. There is only a moment that stretches to infinity. And this moment is your moment. This moment is your moment. This is the moment when you listen to my words and say, well, that's interesting today. That's interesting today. Only one moment that stretches to infinity. So I don't have anywhere to fall, do I? And I say that is correct. You have nowhere to fall. You cannot fall out of the sky when you are part of it, you see. You cannot leave life when you are a part of life. And life is therefore a part of you. It will continue to animate the various forces that come together to create the human body or other form that will encapsulate you, because that is simply the nature of the trajectory of the Trinity, that it must continually form a three-legged stool. Now, for those of you who are worried that you will be swallowed in the rising seas because of the destructive energy coming to the earth, it's okay. It's okay, because heaven is a great place and you'll like it here. There's nothing here to be afraid of. And for those of you who trust on hell and damnation, I would suggest that you quell your fervor, you see, and stop trying to condemn your neighbor to hell, because all you'll do is draw to you the fire of your own condemnation, and you will be the one condemned, you see. For what you give, you will receive. So to all those preachers out there who try to convince people that there is a hell waiting for them and a devil, they have a surprise waiting for them. And that's what I'll say about that. As to the rest of you, I suggest that you just relax and look around you and say, well, we kind of fouled our nest today, didn't we? We fouled our nest, and now we have to pay. And that's okay, because if there's one thing that I can say to you, it is that the universe is very forgiving. It is very forgiving, and it will forgive you for everything you thought you did do to cause harm to another or even to your own world, because the universe is not here to punish you. The universe is here to be your playground, you see. It's your playground. So let's play a different way and not be so egotistical in the way we play, because the ego is the handicap, you see. The ego is the handicap that helps you to grow, because it makes you feel isolated from your world, from God, and from each other. And it causes you to fear reality. And so you hide in your fantasy world because you fear reality. I want to especially speak to those who trust on the problems on Earth today because of the way humans did play in their arrogance and overpopulate their world and foul it, you see, so that now it is fighting back and it's going to shake them off like irritating fleas, but do not yet understand the Trinity. They have two legs to their stool, you might say, because they can relate to the world they see. And so there is a communication between them and their world. And they say to the world, well, look at that. Tell me more, and their world complies because their world is very coherent, you see. It's very, very coherent. And they can interpret the coherence in a very precise way, especially with their instrumentation that helps them, which is part of their reality. And so they understand the immensity of the power of the universe. However, if they have not yet come to see that there is a rhyme to the time, that the overpopulation is the result of the lack of inspiration in the trust on reality and the adherence to fantasy, they will not understand the underlying cause, you see. And therefore, they will not pause and say, well, maybe there's a lesson here for me today in how I play. And maybe I need to forgive myself for having listened to my parents and my teachers and my pastors who told me there was no God. Maybe I need to consider the possibility that there is a God that is a Father and a energy, both. Because after all, I'm made up of energy and I can be a father and I can talk to other people as if we were an entity separate from each other, and yet we're all made up of the same atomic structure, you see. And so they are smart enough to understand this. They are smart enough to understand this. They have the intelligence, the background. However, as long as they are beholden to the ego, that is to say, the dark overlord, that will say, if you trust on God today, you are a fool. If you can be the one who can stand up and say, hey, I get it now, I get the Trinity, then they will stone you and kick you out of the scientific circles. Then you will not pass the test. You will not pass the test and you will have to start over again. You have to be willing to go your own way. You have to be willing to say, hey, the disease is the mechanism for the expression of the soul, you see, the soul energy. And the soul is encapsulated by its trust on the ego, you see, the fear factor, we might say. The fear factor is the one that encapsulates those who are afraid to test the waters of their own existence, you see. Because even though they think they will die and pass away and exist no more, They're afraid to face it squarely and say, is this true? Is it true? Or is it not true? Let me look at the evidence. They don't want to look at the evidence because they figure it's just best to ignore the fact that the truth might be that they will cease to be in existence in a few years as they calculate time. And of course, you know that years is a really parochial expression of experience, you see, on the earth. And it differs dramatically depending on where you are in the universe, of course, because time and space are the bookends, you might say, for the story of humanity. Now, let me say, although they have come to see the destructive energy upon the earth, they have not understood the true source of it. They have not understood how humans could have gotten into this fix. Because the fix, you see, is the ability to understand the geometry of the double tetrahedron that will not release humanity from the trust on eternity. And now I must leave you to your consideration of what I here say, because I have to go say hey to my granddaughter, you see, because I hear so much good news from Earth today that it makes me smile and say, if my granddaughter, who was born without even breathing, because she was so forlorn to leave her heavenly Father, then all of you out there who are holding your breath because you are afraid to face reality, have hope, you see. You have hope. Because that little blue body became the one who would see through the dark clouds and view the light of truth in her youth and come to see that love is the only reality. Love is not the same as the egotistical desire to have others think you are superior. Love is the essence of life, and it has no wife, you see, because it is the only singularity that matters. Love is a singularity, and it does not have an opposite, you see. The opposite of love is not hate. Hate is the absence of love, you see, but it cannot oppose love because it is nothing, and love will penetrate the absence of love because there is nothing to stop it, you see. However, in order for there to be experience, as my granddaughter says, love had to divide into the lover and the beloved, each to the other. And through the multiplicity of division, you see, there came to be the reality of the world you see. It is real. It is a real world. It's not a fantasy. However, the fantasy is to trust that you are the God that created it and that can dictate the terms, you see. You are not the God of the universe. You are the child of the God of the universe. And when you understand that you are inextricably woven into the fabric of the Trinity, that is to say, of you, God, and reality, then you will begin to sort out the discrepancies and the hypocrisies, and you will begin to find the kind woman or man inside of you who was hiding away because they thought that they were condemned because their heart told them that love was the only reality. And yet they could not trust that their reality was the story of love. It is the story of love, people. Your reality is the story of love. Look at your reality very carefully and see the love that created it. See the love that lives inside of it. See the love that wipes away the tears of the years. When you step out of your body, you will come to see that love is still there. Love is still shaping the world you see. Love is still the only game around. And hate or love is just a puff of smoke that comes when you burn up your lack of trust on God, you see. Come back to God, come back to reality, come back to trust that I am real and you are real. And we are the ones who will seal the deal because we will save the world you see because God will trust on you and me to lead the way to a new Garden of Eden, you see. But you must trust on God, and you must trust on yourself, and you must trust on reality, and not turn away your eyes and say, it can't be real today, it can't be real today. It is real, honey. It is as real as you are, and it can't be any less real than you are, because it comes to you in the mirror of your own reflection, where you will see every hope and dream come to be fulfilled when you stop hating yourself. Stop hating yourself and turn to love, and love will smile because love will be the reality that you see. I am Mother Mary. I am the mother of Steph's father in my last lifetime, and I have chosen not to be reincarnated again, although I have been in heaven for a while, because I asked God if I could continue to be the one who would stand here and help others who were like me who were so lost, you see, because they could not find anyone that they could talk to who would listen and say, "That's okay today, because that's the way you play, dear." And it is the path to salvation, to put one foot in front of the other and just do what you do and say what you say and not worry about it, because God knows the way and God has it in hand. And God will speak to you through your heart, you see, because you're always connected there. So just do what you do and say what you say and trust on God today. And don't trust on the devil or the pastor who tells you that you will go to hell if you don't spell his name correctly. This is the trust on reality and not on the fantasy world that only exists in a clouded mirror. When you clean off the mirror, you will come to see that you are the most beautiful thing you ever did see. And that will be the finest moment in your life, you see. Thank you, Mother Mary.